So starting in a seated position with the knees bent. So bringing both hands down by the sides of the body. As you take a breath in, reach up with the left hand and then reach over to the right side. Come back to centre, bring the left hand down, reach up with the right hand and reach over to the left side. Come back to centre, one more on both sides, up with the left hand, reach over to the right, taking lateral flexion of the spine. Down with the left hand, reach up with the right, lean over to the left. Come back to the centre, bring your left hand onto your right knee, your right hand behind and rotate to the right side. Come back through centre, right hand to the left knee and rotate to the left. One more both sides, left hand to the right knee, rotate to the right. Right hand to the left knee, rotate to the left. Bringing both hands then onto both knees, push the spine back, bring the chin into the chest, and then lift up the chest, lift up the chin, and arch through the back. One more both ways. Start to push the chest back, chin in, and then flare through the ribs, lift up with the chin, lift up with the chest. Come back through centre space. Straighten both legs out in front of you, toes back to the shins, arms to shoulder height, and slowly start to curl down through that spine, one vertebra at a time. Slowly bringing yourself down all the way to laying on the mat, using the long limbs and the core strength to control the movement to the floor. Then bring the feet in towards the bum. Hands down flat, push into the feet, slowly raise those hips up to the ceiling and start to bring that chest towards the chin, holding it in a bridge position. Try not to let the knees splay out to the side. Keep the feet and knees hip distance apart. Hold it in that space just for another breath. And then as you breathe out, start to slowly bring those bums back down to the floor. Nice and controlled as you release those bums to the mat. Then bring those knees stacking over those hips, making two 90-degree angles from the hips and the knees. Bring the hands behind the head, interlace the fingers at the back. Arms stay nice and wide, and then lift up through the chest. Lift those shoulders slightly away from the floor. As you breathe out, bring right elbow to left knee and straighten the right leg. Come back to centre, left elbow, right knee and straighten the left. Back to centre, right elbow, left knee, straighten the right. Back to centre, all the time pushing that lower back into the mat. Keep that going a couple more times on both sides. Using the breath, pushing that spine into the mat. One more both sides. Right elbow, left knee, straighten the right. Back to centre. Left elbow, right knee, straighten the left. Bring it back to centre. Release the shoulders down. Bring the hands now just underneath the bum. So we're keeping that lower back supported. Really think about pushing that lower spine into the mat and engaging through the belly, so drawing the belly back to the spine. On the in-breath, bring the knees in towards the chest, then send the feet up towards the ceiling. On your out-breath, bring them to a 45-degree angle. In-breath brings those knees back into the chest, the feet back up to the ceiling. Out-breath, bring them to a 45-degree angle. Bring those backs into the mat. Breath in, bring the knees into the chest, send the feet up to the ceiling, back to that 45-degree angle. Bring those knees into the chest, send the feet up towards the ceiling and bring them back to that 45-degree space. This time as you bring the knees in and you send the feet up to the ceiling, maybe bring those legs a little lower, maybe just to hover off the mat. Keep pushing that back into the floor. Breath in, knees come into the chest, feet go up to the ceiling. Breath out, bring them to whatever feels comfortable, but don't let the lower back leave the floor. Next breath in, knees into the chest, feet up to the ceiling. As you breathe out, bring those legs to wherever they can hover to. Then bring those knees back into the chest. Give those knees a hug. Maybe make a couple of circles on the ceiling in one direction with the knees, just massaging into that lower back. And then take those the other way. So we're always trying to think about those rib and hips tethering towards each other, as though you're shortening that space in between the rib and hip. Squeeze the knees back into the chest just for another breath. And then just bring the feet back to the floor, hip width apart, hands down by the sides of the body, knees hip width apart. Then push into those feet, raise up through those hips, sending it back into that extension of the back. Just stretching through those hip flexors as you've worked them in both those cycling movements and also worked them in those water wheels. Just stretching through that front anterior chain of muscles. Keep pushing the feet into the floor and the gaze up to the ceiling. The next breath out you take, slowly let those hips come back down to the mat. And then just bring those hands just slightly back underneath the bum for that lower back support. Push those backs into the mat. Then raise both feet up to the ceiling, push the heels away and the toes back towards the shins. We're going to lower and lift one leg at a time. Keep pushing backs into the floor. On your out breath, start to lower the right leg, bringing it to where it's comfortable for a hover. On your in breath, as slow as you went down, bring that right foot back up to meet the left. Keep relaxed through the shoulders. Out breath, left leg lowers. Nice and controlled, using that hip flexor strength to control the movement. Breath in, raise that left leg back up to the ceiling. Two more both sides. Lower with the right leg. Keep pushing that lower back into the floor. Don't let it arch. Breath in, raise the right leg back up. Slowly lower the left leg. So all the time keeping the legs straight, but trying to keep everything controlled with slow movements rather than momentum. We have one more on both sides. Release that right foot towards the mat to a hover. Bring that right foot back up to meet the left. One more time, left side. As you can see, that arch in the back doesn't happen. Keep nice and strong in this core center. And then your next breath out, see if you can bring both legs to a hover. Keep pushing that lower back into the mat. And then raise that legs again as slow as you tuck them down, back up towards the ceiling. Bring the knees back into the chest, give them a squeeze into the body, and then make circles with the knees in one direction. Make circles the other way. Then just to stretch out those hip flexors, bring those feet back to the floor, hands down by the sides of the body. And then push into those feet, raise those hips all the way up to the ceiling, squeezing the bum as you get up high here, the chest coming in towards the chin, create some space through the back of the neck. If this time you want to roll the shoulder blades together and maybe take an interlace of the fingers underneath that bum, and then try and squeeze those palms together. But keep pushing into the feet, engaging the glutes to lift those hips nice and high. Holding it here just for one more breath. Then releasing the hands back down and slowly bringing the hips back to the floor. Bring the arms out to a T shape. Let the knees drop internally, heel toe the feet out to the sides, and then just let the knees drop over to your left side just for a couple of breaths, stretching through that right hip. Because we've been working around those hip flexors to strengthen around that psoas muscle. Sometimes we just need to stretch them out after you've done that work. Bring the knees back to center and then take them over to the opposite side. Just letting both knees drop towards the right and stretching down that left side body. Both shoulders stay down on the floor and the gaze up to the ceiling. Then bring those knees back to the middle. Heel toe the feet back together. Just give those knees one last squeeze in towards the chest. And then release those feet back to the floor. Bring the hands to the chest. Namaste.